Steve Basic Architect. So I'm down in the basement of one of our farmhouse projects. I just want to do a really quick video. A lot of people ask me about how do we typically insulate our basement systems. Now it's interesting because there's a couple camps. There's people that like to insulate on the inside. There's people that like to insulate on the outside. They both argue for their systems and why the other one isn't as great as the system that they prefer. My preference is to always insulate on the inside. Outside is such a challenge to keep it intact through construction, and then when we breach grade, you know, when the grade is up here and we have that last 10 inches of concrete foundation, the question is, what do I cover that rigid insulation with? There's never been a real good solution. There's been solutions, but there's never been a really good solution. And it's real easy if I put a house, say, out in the, plains where I have an equal 10 inches around the whole foundation. But if I get out to some job sites and it's 10 inches there, but it drops down to 36 inches here, then how do I protect all of that insulation on the outside? It becomes a real challenge. So some people, when they do the outside, their argument is that they get to use the thermal mass of the foundation wall, and some of them say they have numbers to prove that it works, and maybe it does. All right, maybe it is slightly better, but the reality is we have to do things that work well for our system, that work efficiently, as well as the sequence of construction and the durability through construction plays a major role in what I think should be our choice, right? One of my favorite lines is, if it don't last, it don't matter. So I've been on a lot of job sites where they put that rigid insulation on the outside and it's just all torn apart. Or one of my favorites is, you'll have the grade line down at 20 inches and they'll stop the rigid insulation there and they'll leave that last 20 inches simply exposed, which is probably one of the biggest idiotic things that I've seen in the building industry, because when you think of the wall system, the most stable temperature is down at the bottom of the wall. The one that is probably the most problematic is that last 20 inches above grade, and then that's where they fail to even put any insulation, because that's the one that has the highest delta across there, right? Down at the bottom of the wall, if I'm at 70 degrees in here, the ground might be at 55, so 15-degree delta. But up here, if I'm 70 degrees inside, that could potentially be 0 degrees outside here up in climate zone 5. Now I got a 70-degree delta against one of the worst insulating materials out there, concrete. It's virtually nil from an insulation perspective. So I like to do it on the inside. And the options on the inside are somewhat twofold. If my clients don't have an aversion to spray foam, then you'll see we'll spray closed cell foam down. Now this particular house, we actually sprayed it underneath the slab and the insulator turned the corner up. Sometimes we put rigid insulation under there and we turn that up at the slab edge, and then we'll just come and we'll spray that closed cell on the wall. Now typically we would frame a wall and hold it off the wall about 2 inches. So that allows us to run that closed cell up through the wall, and then that'll leave us, 3.5, 4 inch cavity there where we'll come back and we'll blow in cellulose or fiberglass or thermal fiber rock wool, whatever the material of choice is for that particular project. But the important thing is you have the potential for condensation on this cold surface, so we need to warm it up quickly. So putting that 2-inch flash of closed cell brings that dew point or that condensation surface out 2 inches. But in displacement, it also warms it up, because you're talking roughly about R6.5, R7, so you're in a 13-14 range, R13-14 here, and then we'll put another additional, say, R15 on the inside. So about half of that insulation that we're putting in the wall is actually elevating that surface, first condensing surface, we would call it. So anyways, you can see there, we turn that up, we have our wall here, we have our treated plate down there. We actually have a sill sealer that we run under there just as a capillary break from the concrete to any of our wood framing. And if we go over here, the insulator was kind enough to give us a small example. So here you can see they've actually come back and they've sprayed the 2 inches of closed cell. It goes down over that 18-inch base down at the bottom. Might be able to see it a little better around the corner here. But it also goes up and over the top of our bunker there. And we actually sprayed all of the band joists when the floor frame was open because we knew we were never going to get a second shot at that. And you can see here, that comes all the way down, and you get a really good shot here of that insulation just simply going over the top. They'll net this, and then we can blow in that cavity, but this is considerably warmer than the concrete surface 2 inches below it, and because of that, this maintains a temperature above dew point, so we're not at the risk of getting any condensation on the inside of our walls. So anyways, we'll net that, we'll blow that, we'll put our drywall over that, and then we'll have a nice little cozy basement down here. But anyways, that's my little chat. Basement insulation, and I'm Steve Basic Architect, and we're out at our farmhouse project.